Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and pause intermittently here and there to talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Without further ado, here we go.
This following critical incident briefing is intended to provide you with information about this briefing you may from a video and a heard based on a thorough use of force investigation. Each deputy law investigation and independent reviews review very early stages of analyzed, acted consistent with the entire investigation about to see may be disturbing. Defend against an attack. On Wednesday, December 29, 2021, at approximately 12:20 p.m., Carson Sheriff Station received a call of a family disturbance at a residence in the 2600 block of East Dominguez Street in the city of Carson. The female caller indicated she was involved in an argument with her daughter, 26-year-old Caitlin Marshall. The phone call abruptly ended, and desk personnel called back and briefly reestablished contact with the informant. The informant told the 911 dispatcher to let it go, and that she would call them back if she needed law enforcement. At approximately 12:46 p.m., the informant called back. She indicated they were still arguing, and Marshall was now armed with a gun and a knife. During the call, Marshall could be heard saying in the background, quote, "Take me to jail or in a body bag. That's the only way I'm leaving," end quote.
Yes, I had called earlier because me and my daughter are arguing. I need someone to come out here and get her out of my house. That's what's not necessary. And she's taking my gun out of my car.
Oh.
She's 26.
What's her name?
I pulled the knife on her 3 times. Like I always do. She called me and my kid one night. If you tell me that you better take me to jail or money back. That's all I do. Yes, I called 911.
We're on our way. Just down the line with me. We're on our way. Is there any weapons?
This is a gun, but it doesn't work. But yeah.
Does she have it?
She says it does work.
Does she have the gun?
She says it works. And it's not. And I got a knife. And she's strapped.
Does she have the gun, ma'am? Yes or no?
She's taking control of me in my house.
Okay, ma'am, does she have the gun on her?
The gun is not. Yeah, it's one in her pocket. I can't lie.
It's a gun in her pocket, and she said the gun don't work. But the daughter said the gun works. The daughter has the gun in her pocket.
Okay, sure. So the sooner the better. Thank you.
Just down the line, please. And you said you have a knife in your hand?
I got the phone in my hand, yeah.
No, you said you had a knife?
She says tonight, I just had a surgery like 2 weeks ago.
She said she had a knife in her hand, but the daughter snatched it. In the daughter's pocket. It's the mama. Like in the daughter? The daughter's in the background. Does she have any mental issues that she's taking medicine for?
I wasn't aware of them until now. Because anyone tell you, she called the police with the...
She can't see phone from her.
If the police come here, the only way they're going to take me is the body.
Deputies were dispatched to the residence. While responding, the deputies coordinated the deployment of less lethal weapon options and requested a field supervisor and the mental evaluation team, also known as MET, to respond. The deputies arrived and surrounded the residence. The 911 operator was on the phone with Marshall, and she was instructed to allow her mother to exit the residence. Marshall's mother exited through the open garage door and walked to the sidewalk in front of the residence. Moments later, Marshall's stepfather exited the front door of the residence and stood in the walkway between the front door and driveway. As the deputies were directing the mother and stepfather to walk towards them, Marshall exited the garage door holding a large kitchen knife in her left hand and a firearm in her right hand. Deputies gave Marshall several commands to drop the firearm, while simultaneously telling the parents to move away from Marshall and to walk towards them. Marshall's mother continued to stand in the street, while Marshall and her stepfather were standing in the walkway near the front door to the residence. While Marshall was standing next to her stepfather, she pointed the firearm at 2 uniformed deputies who were taking cover behind a patrol vehicle, which was positioned to the east of the residence. The deputies did not fire and continued to order Marshall to drop the firearm, but she refused to comply.
You can, once this car comes, just point it out.
Hey, Adam, we have the DP on the line, and she said she's not putting the gun down, has a knife in her head, and if deputies come here, she's going to try to stop.
Just watch the garage. Get your gun out. Hey, yeah, copy. Hey, if you could talk to her and letting her mom come out, that'd be great. If the mom could walk out. Stand by. Garage door is opening. We got the, looks like what the mom is coming towards us. Come stand on this side, watch that side. Okay. Just stay right there, watch it. Hey, call that guy out to you. Hey, put the gun down! Put the gun, ma'am!
All right. I like this. So, one of my biggest complaints with a lot of these videos is too often I see officers responding to these type of calls and all they get out is their damn pistol. This officer is thinking correctly and is getting a rifle out and putting it into play. Anytime you go into a call that involves deadly physical weapons, especially firearms, you need to get a long gun out. If the situation turns into a deadly physical encounter, you want a long gun in that fight. A long gun is going to end that fight a lot faster than a pistol. Pistol ammunition sucks. I don't care what the hell it is. 9, 40, 45, 10 mil, whatever. It all sucks. In comparison to rifle and shotgun. You can have your debate all you want all day long, which is better as far as pistol goes, 9, 40, 45, blah, blah, blah. Just know, when you're dealing with pistol, they all suck. The kinetic energy that a rifle will dump into a target is monumental compared to pistol ammunition. The terminal ballistics for a rifle, you can take less rifle rounds to stop a threat than what it would take pistol rounds. There are many cases out there where people have been shot multiple times with a pistol and they still continued to fight. They did not go down with a physically incapacitating hit. Now, sometimes people get shot with a pistol round and they become mentally incapacitated. They're still physically capable of fighting, but they became mentally incapacitated. That happens, but if they're not weak-minded and you don't give them a physically incapacitating round with a pistol cartridge, they're going to fight you. One of the more famous cases that is referenced a lot in training is out of Miami in the 1980s. The Miami-Dade FBI shootout with a couple of bank and armored truck robbers. Those dudes were shot multiple times with pistol caliber ammunition, and they continued to fight. One took a round to the fucking head, and he was only temporarily knocked out. His ass woke back up during the middle of the gunfight and crawled out of the car and tried to steal an FBI agent's vehicle. The other guy shot multiple times with pistol caliber ammunition. The first hit he took was a fatal hit. It just was not immediately physically incapacitating. The first round he took went through his side and went into his fucking heart. But it didn't go deep enough. He went on to kill a couple of FBI agents and seriously wounded several others before him and his buddy were finally taken down. And of course that incident was the thing that realistically gave birth to the 40 Smith & Wesson. But the point I'm making is pistol calibers, they suck. The only reason why pistols are carried is because they are convenient and comfortable. And law enforcement is not getting into gunfights every single fucking day. Look at your agencies locally. Your sheriff's office, your city police, the state police who are assigned to your area. If you have a campus, your campus police. If you have something like constables or something like that. When's the last time they were involved in a gunfight? And if it was recent, what about before that? When was the last time before that they were involved in a gunfight? There are lots of agencies out there where it has been years, some decades, since they've ever had an officer-involved shooting. There's some agencies out there that has never experienced an officer-involved shooting. Majority of law enforcement gets to go the entire career with never having to shoot anybody. Now, they point their guns at a lot of people, but they never have to shoot anybody. So that is part of the reason why pistols are carried all the damn time, because you're just not having to shoot people on a regular basis. If you was having to shoot people on a regular basis, I would think that the way of doing things would be a lot different. You would see rifles being carried around a lot more. But since there's not a lot of shit like that going down, the pistols are carried on a daily basis because they're comfortable and convenient. You can carry a pistol on you for 8, 10, 12, 16 hours out of the day, and it doesn't really become very cumbersome. You carry a rifle around for 8 hours of the day, you're going to notice that shit. A rifle is not very comfortable. And a pistol, although the ammunition sucks, it can deliver physically incapacitating hits and stop a threat. So it's a good emergency, oh hell, shit's hitting the fan, I need a gun, oh it's right here on my hip, solve the problem. But that's as things happen rapidly and suddenly. It's an emergency defensive weapon, right? A rifle or a shotgun is something that you get when you're going to something that you believe has a very high chance of turning into a deadly physical fight. And that would be going to a call involving a person who's got a fucking gun. So this deputy is doing the right thing by getting the rifle out. He has the correct mindset. And unfortunately, we just don't see this too often within a lot of videos. So kudos to this guy.
Ma'am! Hey, put this, ma'am, come on!
And, just, oddball observation, he's still rocking what I would call an old school metal box magazine. So, more often than not, you typically see the Magpul magazines in rifles nowadays. It's very few videos you see where people are still using these aluminum box magazines.
Here! But ma'am, come here! Put the gun down! Put the gun down! Ma'am! Hey, watch your backdrop! Watch your backdrop! Ma'am, come here!
I don't know what this guy's rank is or anything like that. They might have said it. I might have forgot it by now. But he is delivering a lot of verbal commands to the people down there. And he's also directing this other deputy. And I kind of got the feeling this other deputy might be a rookie. Because he had to tell him to get his damn gun out. Like, you're on a call involving a person who's got a fucking gun. And you don't even have your own gun out. That sounds like a boot to me. So, not only is this guy having to manage the scene in the sense of giving directions to subjects, he's also having to give fucking commands to the person who seems like the rookie. He's got a lot on his plate right now.
Yeah. Put it down! Put it down! Watch your backdrop. Sir, move! Sir! Hey, someone else get radio. Someone else get radio. I got her. Hey, watch your other people.
Okay, so he is telling someone else get the radio. Someone else get the radio. What I believe he is referring to is he's wanting someone behind them to get on the radio to act as the radio person versus the deputy who's up there with him with a lethal weapon that needs to be providing lethal cover. I like that. That's good mindset. And that's something I've talked about in some other videos before. when there's multiple officers on scene and there's like 2 or 3 of them trying to all talk on the damn radio, or the people who are in the front of that stack are trying to talk on the radio. If you're on the front line, so to speak, you don't need to be dicking around with your fucking radio when there's multiple other people there. Someone else can act as the radio person while you or whoever is at the front of the line dealing with the threat at hand. Whoever's at the front needs to be task oriented to the problem at hand. They need to be solely focused on that threat and ready to deal with that threat at moment's notice. They don't need to be dicking around with the radio, having something that is occupying their mind and distracting them. They need to be 100% focused on that threat. Someone else in the back can become the radio operator and take over communications. And it's also better for just one person to be on the radio talking to the dispatch, because you start getting 3, 4, 5 people all keying up, trying to tell dispatch something. That's a lot of shit for that dispatcher to try and keep up with, and it's also eating up a lot of airtime. So if someone was needing to put something critical out over the air, then they're not able to because they got 4 other knuckleheads trying to key up the radio. And sometimes people cancel each other out when they're trying to key up on the radio. Depending on how the system's set up, both of them could be trying to key up and all they do is get tones, or the radio's system will allow both radios to go through and all you hear is a bunch of garbled mess on the net. So it's always good that when there's multiple people there, have one person designated as the radio person.
Ma'am, come here, ma'am! Ma'am!
I'll get the radio. I got radio. We got radio. Hey, we can't.
Hey, search the police!
Hey.
Hey, search the police from her!
If he does...
We have a 40.
Hey, someone get less lethal now. Less lethal up.
Step away.
Step away! Step away from her! Step away from her!
DP is going to be arguing with the male black and a
Step
male black.
away from her!
As soon as a full knife and
Hey, step away from her!
I got lethal.
Step away!
Hey, watch your backdrop. Watch your crossfire, guys. Put it down! She points out again. Hey, if she points it again, guys.
Hey, who guys commands? Joey got commands? Who guys commands?
Hey, sir, step away from her! Do it now!
Ma'am, call this lady over here.
Man!
Wait, she went back inside. Hey, lock it down. Grab these people out. Grab these people out. 998, someone put it out. Hey.
Marshall walked away from her stepfather and towards the driveway of the residence. Marshall pointed the firearm at 2 other uniformed deputies who were positioned to the north of the residence, at which time a deputy-involved shooting occurred. Members of the mental evaluation team were responding, but did not arrive until after the deputy-involved shooting.
Okay, so we have a rifle here that has 2 magazines on board. See if I can freeze frame it just right. Nah, not going to be able to freeze frame it just right. But anyway, that rifle had 2 magazines on it. It had a little magazine coupler on there. That, in my opinion, is the best way to go. When you have a rifle, you got 2 magazines on board. That means that if there's a problem with that first magazine, or you run the bolt lock on that first magazine, then you have your secondary magazine right there to fix any problems. In this scenario, it looks like they've pulled up and it's very dynamic and fluid, and they just grabbed the rifle and went. Didn't seem like they had time to go to the back of the truck or the vehicle or whatever to get a vest. So sometimes you may not have that luxury time to grab a plate carrier, to grab a tactical vest that has additional magazines on it. for a home defense type of scenario with a rifle, that's a good thing to have, is a rifle that has 2 magazines on it. That way you grab that rifle, and that rifle already has a reload on it. And if you can't grab a carrier or a vest, then that's fine. You've got a rifle that has 2 magazines on it. I'm also a fan of putting a tourniquet on the stock of a rifle. Again, that way if your vest or plate carrier has the tourniquet on it and you don't have time to grab it, well, you've got your rifle, but it's got a tourniquet on that stock. I think that's a good solid way to go. This gun on the right here, this looks like a Beretta. Yeah, I think it is a Beretta. So it's interesting to see that this old-ass fucking gun is still in operation. It's still in play. The only thing nice about this setup is the Surefire light with the DevGru switch. Other than that, I mean, the gun itself, I'm not the biggest fan of. Obviously, you know, thousands, if not millions of others were not a big fan of it because the military ended up getting rid of it. But it's interesting to see these, what I would call these legacy guns, still in operation. And I don't necessarily fully like the whole split screen thing, because then you're like, oh, where do I look? Where do I look? Where do I look? And of course it wants to. Alright, so it seems like the right screen, no, I'm sorry, the left screen. It seems like the left screen is the person who is closest to what's going on. The person with the right screen is almost pretty much right behind the left screen, because you see this red car here and you saw this blue thing right there. So left screen, you can kind of see him right there, and right screen, I mean, well, you know the point of view of the right screen.
6-3, I don't confirm what direction you're facing.
Alright, so can't see much on the right screen, but on the left screen we see him, what appears to be taking cover behind a vehicle. Now, is this cover? No, it's not cover. He is essentially standing with part of his legs and lower abdomen area, maybe, or maybe lower hip area, covered by the doors, but then belly to somewhere in the chest is exposed with the glass. A simple .22 long rifle can go through one full door and even go out the fucking second door there. So he's not really behind cover at all. The glass, of course, bullet go one through one glass panel, go through the second and hit him. So he's not really behind cover. If he wanted to be behind cover with a vehicle, his ass is going to need to be up here by this engine block in a crouched position, either A, aiming over the hood, or B, kind of leaning out to the side, aiming around the front bumper of the vehicle itself. Vehicles are poor choices of cover, and unless you've ever shot vehicles before, you're not going to understand the simple fact that bullets pass through them very easily. Like I said, a .22 caliber, a small ass little bullet, can go straight through an entire fucking door, no problem. 9mm will go through a door, no problem. The entire fucking door. Go through both doors. So this is a poor choice of cover.
Okay, we're going to be facing westbound.
Especially from side to side. Now, if you do have a vehicle that is the only thing of cover, the best thing to do is the longest way, the front to back. So, for example, the police vehicle, like in the first part of the video that we've seen, where you can see down here in the slide, He's at the rear of the police cruiser. So that's a little bit more of a better positioning in a vehicle when you are able to put as much material between you as possible. And the most amount of material that you're going to get between you and the bad guy is going to be from front bumper to back bumper. That's a lot of shit for a round to be going through. When you are on the one side of the vehicle, passenger or driver side, whatever, and the threat's on the other, that's less material for a round to have to go through.
DP is going to be arguing with a male black and a female black. And still has a both knife and a gun.
Hey, I got Lito.
18A and 417 at time. The serving party is arguing with two subjects on same facing westbound.
Okay, so this officer here is behind this red car. This guy's behind this grayish SUV. And this officer who's behind this grayish SUV, if you look here on the left screen, you can see him right up here by the Axon logo and the timestamp here. He's right there.
Put it down! Put it down! Put it down! Sir! Get away from her!
Hey, put it out!
The deputy-involved shooting was additionally captured on a cell phone camera by a witness who was standing directly behind the deputies, staged to the north of the residence.
Plain as day, pointing that gun.
Marshall was struck by gunfire and dropped the firearm into a bush next to where she was standing. Marshall then re-entered the garage, fell to the ground, and dropped the approximately 14-inch long kitchen knife next to her. The deputies formed a rescue team, approached, and began to render aid to her until the arrival of the Los Angeles County Fire Department paramedics, who continued to render medical aid. Marshall was transported by ambulance to a local hospital where she was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. There were no other persons injured in the incident. The handgun Marshall was observed holding was recovered at the scene.
Okay, so we got to see an officer with a rifle fire and an officer with a pistol fire. She was struck, but they didn't give any details about where she was struck at. I really wish that they would have provided some more detailed information about that, because I would be really curious to know how many rifle rounds she took and where she took them at. Obviously, the gunfire had the intended purpose. It had the desired effect. It stopped the threat. She dropped that fucking gun and retreated back into the garage, and then either became physically incapacitated from the rounds or had become mentally incapacitated from those rounds.
It was determined to be an unloaded Webley & Scott .45 caliber revolver.
So, a Webley & Scott. I'm not the greatest firearms historian, but I think this is a fucking World War I gun. Let me take a real quick look.
There were no other persons injured in the incident. The handgun Marshall was observed holding was recovered at the scene. It was determined to be an unloaded...
Alright, so Webley and Scott 45. I'll take a real quick look at this. let's see what the internets have to say about it. The Webley revolver was, in various designations, a standard issue service pistol for the armed forces of the United Kingdom and countries of the British Empire and the Commonwealth nations from 1887 to 1970. God, this thing's old. Now, obviously, don't know exactly how old this one is. I mean, there's a very wide range right there. The Webley is a top break revolver, and breaking the revolver operates the extractor, which blah 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 blah. Yeah, that's a lot of. Okay, so here's some pictures. A Webley Mark 1. So this looks like a Webley. Yeah, this looks exactly like a Webley Mark 1 revolver, circa 1887 from, well, this particular picture is from Canada, but this gun right here looks like it matches almost with the picture I'm looking at as a Webley Mark 1 revolver, 1887. Gosh, that is old. Huh. Yeah. The standard issue Webley revolver at the outbreak of the First World War was the Webley Mark V, but there were considerably more Mark IV revolvers in service in 1914, as the initial order for 20,000 Mark V revolvers had not been completed when hostilities began. Yeah, so this thing's super old. And it's sad that this is now going to be stuck in a fucking evidence room for a long time and then potentially cut in half with a torch or melted down. That sucks. That really does. Which, I'm not the biggest fan of some old stuff like this, but there are some other people out there who would love to add something like this to a collection. I mean, hell, something like this belongs in a damn museum, not a freaking evidence locker that's going to be sitting there for years. So it's kind of sad, really, that something like this is just going to go to waste.
Webley and Scott .45 caliber revolver. Marshall later admitted to pointing the firearm at deputies, hoping they would shoot her so her mother would feel bad about calling the police. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department has begun a thorough and in-depth investigation. Homicide investigators will continue to investigate this incident.
All right, so that is the end of the video. No more footage to go. This is a pretty clear-cut case. She came out with a gun, pointed it at police. The first time she pointed it at police, in my opinion, they should have shot her ass. But we did hear him talk about crossfire and the backdrop, so couldn't see extremely well from the first officer's point of view and what they could see or could not see. That first officer could have seen something that told him it was an unsafe firing solution, that if he fired, it would put someone else in danger. And if that's the case, then yeah, I'd stand by him in his decision not to shoot. And it may have been that the other deputies were in a position to where, because of their angles and everything, and the angles of the other people, they had a better firing solution, and they felt that they were able to safely shoot and not run the risk of hitting anyone else. But if those first officers, if that wasn't the case, if they had a clear line of sight and there was nothing that would have endangered someone else, then they should have shot. And who knows? Who knows if the first deputies that we seen who had the opportunity to shoot, for all we know, one of them could have had the ability to put a really good physically incapacitating hit on her, just one hit, and drop her right then and there. The other two deputies that fired, one did have a rifle, and the rifle did fire, and she moved from point A to point B. She didn't make it very far, but she did move after being hit, and I don't know if she was hit with any rifle fire or not. They didn't provide any of that detailed information, but I would say there's probably a pretty good chance that she probably was hit with rifle, and it's possible that from the angles involved, where the officer was positioned, where she was positioned, and how she was turned, it's possible that the rifle round could have gone through a non-critical area, or went into a non-critical area and did not physically incapacitate her. The very beginning here, where the woman calls 911 and is saying that this girl has now armed herself with a weapon. Personally, I think it would be a good idea to have the dispatchers tell these people, go ahead and leave the house. I mean, at this point, it's almost like a fucking building on fire. So if someone calls 911 and says the house is on fire, what's the dispatchers going to do? They're going to say, get out of the house, get out, leave now. I think the same thing should be done when the minute they say that there's, a gun being seen, the dispatchers should tell these people, leave immediately, go outside, keep walking. If this woman grabbing a gun was not enough to scare this person who called 911 into actually leaving the house, is the situation really as bad as it is? Or, is the person calling 911 so fucking stupid that they don't recognize the danger and they're still continuing to stay there? I don't know. But I would like to see calls like this have the dispatchers telling these people to vacate the area, to get the hell out of there and start walking. Because like I said, it's just like if someone called for a house fire or a hotel fire, the dispatchers are going to tell them to leave. They're not going to say, all right, well, we have somebody coming, just stand by. No, they're going to tell them to get the hell out of the building. So the same thing needs to be done when there's weapons involved. And I think that would help lessen any liability issues, I guess you could say. So if when police do get there and the people who called 911 are still there and gunfight ends up happening and the 911 caller ends up getting accidentally hit, well, when it comes to court time, if it's on the 911 recording where the dispatchers told them multiple times to get out of that house, go somewhere else, and they refuse to, well, the last shit's on them. They fucking knew what the risks were. They were told multiple times to leave, and they refused to. And if they ended up getting hit by, stray round, crossfire, whatever, it's on them. They were the ones who were too stupid to leave. Not much else to say about this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.